Today we actually have a very special guest, Devamrita Swami, who's a world-renowned author, monk, and spiritual teacher. It's a very special day because he's actually been traveling all over the world. He's going to speaking at different colleges and universities, spreading this message of super consciousness. And so he could have chosen any different part of the world to be there today. New Zealand, somewhere in Europe, perhaps somewhere in Japan, Australia. But he chose to be here tonight in Los Angeles in our humble little place, Mantra House. And as an author, he's written a few books, one of them being Hiding in Unnatural Happiness. Who here has this book? We're actually very lucky to have him here. And so warm round of applause for Devamrita Swami.
So we've gathered here tonight to discuss a topic you're probably not interested in. Make me a natural enjoyer. Yes, no one here is interested in enjoyment or happiness?
Oh, I'm extremely interested. That was too loud.
Yes, of course. That is our spontaneous reaction. Thank you. Have you ever asked yourself why you have this urge for pleasure? Because it can get you into a lot of trouble. It can also get you into a lot of hard work, right? Do you ever question yourself, why am I, in the American lingo, pursuing happiness? Why am I chasing it? Am I hardwired in that way? Is it just the hormones? Many of you can remember what life was like before the hormones changed, yes? Peaceful, and you saw everyone as equal in that you didn't consider this one will be good for my enjoyment, that one will be good for my enjoyment. You remember the bliss of being an innocent little kid? Those were the good old days, right? And then something changed. The body changed. What you call growth, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, the prime Bhakti Yoga text, calls changing of the body. That's a very important point to remember, that the body changes. Because before you reached puberty, you were thinking one way, and then afterwards, you were thinking another way. I like to tell the story about my middle brother. He was, around 9 years old. That means I was about 11. So I came home from school one day to our house in New York City, and I went to the back of our house where we had the backyard, and there I saw my brother and his little friends digging a huge hole in the ground. That's why I said, "What are you doing? Why are you digging this huge hole in the backyard?" They said, "Don't you know? We're digging this hole so we can get down in it and hide when the girls attack." I said, "Well, can you please explain to me, why the girls would want to attack?" He said, "Because they're mad at us. We don't play with dolls. Therefore, they probably want to attack us. So therefore, we're digging this big hole to hide from them." So I said, "Well, this sounds very interesting." They were so turned off and so resistant that they were going to dig a hole in the backyard. 2 years later, maybe 2 or 3 years later, my brother was 11 or 12, I was 14 or 15. Again, I was coming home from school, and there was this crowd of young boys in front of my house. They were all of my brother's age, around 12 years old. And they had made made a ring, and in the center, I saw my brother and this other guy, and they were like boxers, you know. They were going at each other, you know. So being older, I could easily push my way to the front of the ring. I said to my brother, "What are you doing, having a fight right in front of our house?" He said, "You don't understand." I said, what is it I don't understand? "We both like the same girl." So what happened in 2 or 3 years? What happened? One moment he's digging a hole to hide from the girls because they're just crazy. The next year, you know, he's fighting over one. So what goes on here?
Your body changed.
The body changed. And his concept of enjoyment changed as the body changed. But still, whether you're a little child, or an adult, or a young adult, or teenager, you still are pursuing pleasure. It's just the way you pursue pleasure changes. But, again, my point, why do we have this urge to enjoy? And what is our natural enjoyment? You would prefer your pleasure to be as natural as possible. You don't want artificial pleasure. Although sometimes we would consider, when I say we, I mean people in general, they would consider that artificial enjoyment is better than no enjoyment, right? It's got to come some kind of way. But in our heart of hearts, we're longing to be a natural enjoyer. That means the enjoyment just flows like a stream, pours down from the sky like rain, and we get drenched. Natural pleasure, organic pleasure, right? So, believe it or not, the real purpose of the yoga system is to address pleasure. But first we have to deprogram ourselves from the false pleasure. This is difficult for many persons to grasp. They'll tell you that, all right, the pleasure that we're getting now may not be the best, but it's something. How can we let go of it to pursue this mysterious pleasure that's supposed to be better? The spiritual pleasure that Krishna talks about in Bhagavad Gita. Are any of you musicians here? Do you have any musicians? Well, there is a music school in Vienna, Austria. Classical music. For training classical pianists. And at this school they have 2 rates of tuition, 2 fees. One is if you've had piano lessons before, and another if you have never had piano lessons. The ones who pay the higher fee are those who've had piano lessons before. Why is that? Because this school, this world-renowned school, has to unlearn those who've taken lessons before, so they can be taught the best method of playing the piano. So this is what happens when you approach Bhagavad Gita, the knowledge, the wisdom, the guidance that Krishna gives. Part of our experience will be unlearning what we think is pleasure, and then learning what is our natural pleasure. Obviously, not everyone's going to be interested in that, because living life the way it goes these days means you take on strong, rigid habits. This is the way it should be done. Actually, those habits about how you're going to be happy, how you're going to enjoy, have been accumulated not only from this lifetime, but from many lifetimes. So that's how powerful the habit energy is. You've got that habit energy packed into your body and mind at the time of birth. Then you take on more habit energy from your family, from society, friends, neighbors. So what is the powerful spiritual force that can handle all that conditioning? I know sometimes you feel helpless in the face of all that conditioning, right? And you tell yourself, what can I do about this? I'm not a saint. And no doubt you have friends and family members who are just telling you, hey, go with it, you know? Go with the flow. Why are you trying to isolate yourself from the normal flow of things? Everyone's doing like this, it can't be all that bad. Like my father used to tell me when I was a young teenager, because he noticed I was just observing and trying to understand why people would do what they're doing. I remember when I was, 9 years old, I would go up to couples who were in, their early 20s. And I would ask them, why are you together? Why are you holding hands? And they would look at me like, you'll find out one day. So I was that kind of kid, I was always asking questions like that, doing research. Trying to understand what is this thing called life, and why do people do what they do. My favorite song when I was 8 years old, I think I was around 8, maybe a little older. My favorite song was, Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow? That song explains the existential problems of romance and passion. Tonight you're mine completely. You give your love so sweetly. The light of love shines brightly in your eyes. But will you still love me tomorrow? With so many words spoken, you say that I'm the only one. But will my heart be broken when the night meets the morning sun? That was my favorite song when I was a kid. So I was that kind of kid, always asking questions and trying to figure out what's going on. My father wasn't like that, though. My father was a man of passion. His guru, maybe some of you may remember him, his guru was Hugh Hefner. Every month he'd get his Playboy magazine. My mother would try to throw it out before they make sure the kids didn't see it. So he was a bit concerned that I was not having that fire for enjoyment that he felt a teenager should have. He took me aside one day and said, son, you should try to understand, life is not a spectator sport. You're just observing and watching too much. You should get into it. So then he started telling me how, you're 14 years old. There's a lot of nice looking young girls in the neighborhood. You should get to know them. I was under the influence of my mother, who was very religious. So I said, Dad, isn't that Doesn't Jesus say that's sinful? Son, you're listening to your mother too much. It's just natural. There's a lot of nice girls in this neighborhood. It's just natural. And then in the same conversation, he told me, by the way, about your younger sister. If you ever see a boy walking her home from school, you immediately tell me, I'll take action. I said, wait a minute. This doesn't make sense here. Things don't add up mathematically. If all the boys are supposed to be out plundering and all the girls are supposed to keep it together, this is not going to work. So anyway, I recognized that at that age that there seems to be a problem with this thing called material enjoyment. Someone has to suffer in the name of someone getting pleasure. So, how can that really be enjoyment? When you think about it, whatever you acquire materially means someone else didn't get it. You make money at the expense of someone else. You buy things at the sacrifice of someone else, the sacrifice of the environment. You get a partner, someone else didn't get that partner, right? But you tell yourself, that's the way it is. It's the way the cookie crumbles. But still, try to understand how endeavors for material pleasure always result in someone suffering. And of course, if you're really shrewd and understand the yoga science, you'll see that you yourself are suffering in the endeavor for material enjoyment. Because that material enjoyment is laced with anxiety and stress, because it's not natural. We want natural material enjoyment, but I tell you the truth, there's no such thing. That's why you're always in anxiety while having the so-called natural material enjoyment. You're in anxiety, whether it's like, will you still love me tomorrow, or how soon will this fade? And sometimes you just get real cynical, right? Like, anyway, whatever I'm enjoying now is going to go stale. It doesn't matter. I'll just get it while I can, right? It may be temporary. It is temporary, but so what? And then if you're really energetic, you try to juggle all kinds of temporary enjoyments, because you know each one is going to fade. So just like a juggler, you just throw all these balls up in the air. There'll be this activity, this person, that person, travel here, buy this, study that. Because you know none of those balls in and of themselves can retain the lasting enjoyment that you're looking for. So when it comes to personal relationships, you're very hardened unconsciously. Maybe some of you have noticed how in your quest for enjoyable relationships, you actually get quite battle hard about it all. Thick-skinned in the name of love. You're watching carefully the other person. Don't make any false moves. Right? You're really sensitive and on alert. Because you've been disappointed so many times in the past. Maybe no one has cheated on you, but you know the phenomenon that time wears everything down. So you don't want to be the one holding the bag when time makes its effect, right? If there's anyone who's going to be leaving, you want to be the first one to leave. Then you're known as a savvy enjoyer. So much anxiety, so much positioning you have to worry about doing. How long is this going to last? I mean, let's be practical. even try to discuss it with the other person. But even though you know it's not going to last, what else can you do? Something is driving you to enjoy. You want it to be natural, but it seems so artificial. And the proof of the artificiality is often you have to fake it. You have to fake that you're happy. You have to fake that you like what another person's doing. Fake it so you can achieve your goals. All this puts such a strain on your consciousness. And therefore the only relief is intoxication, right? Intoxication is supposed to make the pleasure flow more spontaneously. But actually, you're taking the intoxication so that you can be free from anxiety. So just to try to enjoy becomes such an ordeal. First of all, as you know, you have to work so hard to get the wherewithal, to get the resources to enjoy, right? And then secondly, your so-called enjoyment is dependent on so many conditions. Those of you who read Bhagavad Gita and its graduate study, Srimad Bhagavatam, these classic bhakti texts, you'll find that again and again, you're given information about how the objects of the senses require extremely hard labor for you to connect with those objects of the senses. Your senses, in yoga terminology, are hungry for objects, sights, sounds, smells, touch sensations. Your senses are hungry for that. But to have that privilege requires such hard work. There are no free lunches in the material world. Many of you understand that by now. Whenever you think something's free, you can always see that such an endeavor is required. Tolerance is required. I often like to point out, think of a material so-called pleasure. Don't say it out loud, but think of something that you like to do or others like to do. You can't indulge in that so-called pleasure non-stop without it driving you crazy or hurting yourself, without you being disgusted. So that should tell you something about the nature of material pleasure. Whatever it is, whatever your indulgence is, you can't do it all the time before it just becomes disgusting, or it injures your body, injures your mind. There's a great problem with material pleasure. And the yogis, the genuine yogis and meditators understand that we have a problem here. When you reach that understanding, you're at a stage called material exhaustion, which is considered a prime status for receiving enlightenment. Now, there's some misunderstanding about material exhaustion. Generally, you think material exhaustion means that you're a failure, you flunked out of the university, or you're a failure at relationships, no one wants you, you're not good at sports, you're not making good money, so therefore you're materially exhausted. No. The yogic terminology of material exhaustion means that you may be very materially expert, competent, intelligent, skilled, but you recognize that that expertise and those skills will not produce the desired outcome of genuine happiness. That's what it means to be materially exhausted. Not that you're a loser. Then again, actually in material life, everyone's a loser. Right? Because you just can't get that natural enjoyment you want. So the materially exhausted person could be very wealthy, could be very smart, very beautiful, but that person recognizes this road is not getting me to where I want to go. Those are the kind of persons that are prime candidates for spiritual science. So let me repeat. Materially exhausted doesn't mean that you drop out of the university or are unemployed purposely or are dysfunctional in relationships. Materially exhausted means you recognize the futility of endeavors for material happiness. Does that sound scary? Recognize the futility of the endeavors for material happiness. I often give the example. I ask, how many of you would have the nerve, the guts, to say at a family gathering, let's say Thanksgiving or 4th of July family gathering weekend, or maybe if you're living away from your family, maybe it's a bunch of your friends get together for dinner. And in the midst of it all, you announce to your friends or your family, you know, I'd just like to say that I'm a failure at material enjoyment. How many of you could do that? People look at you like you're crazy. What do you mean? Don't ruin the meal. Don't bring us down. And you try to clarify. Well, you see, I really meant that. I consider that I'm a failure at material enjoyment. People get very upset. Minimally, they'll get nervous. They'll offer some solution. Hey, have another beer. I know a nice potential partner for you. We'll set up a blind date. Anything, but just shut down. So the ordinary world is not ready for that kind of concession. But what troubles you is the artificiality of the endeavors. You've got to really profile yourself as a top enjoyer. Right? At the workplace, you've got to compete. At the university, you've got to compete. Even for relationships, you have to compete, right? You've got to be known as a performer. Otherwise, the word gets out that you're not a good performer in relationships. That's hell, isn't it? So much pressure is on you. You've got to exude confidence. Yeah, I can do it. Yeah. I know how to enjoy. Yeah. I can make the money. Yeah. I got a successful career in mind. Don't worry. So much pressure is there, right? Did you know that social scientists have concluded that those who are young adults today, that means between the age of 18 and 35. How many here are between the ages of 18 and 35? Okay. You are considered, you should know that social scientists consider you the most anxiety-stricken generation in history. Because there's so much pressure on you to try and get at least what your parents have, if not more. And for a lot of young persons, that's not happening anymore. The American dream, what happened? Economists will point out that in terms of real wages, the average American hasn't seen an increase in wages in 30 years in terms of real income. And then, of course, you've got college debts. some anxiety attached to that. Just like where I'm based, in Australia, New Zealand. Yes, so many young persons have school debts, but you don't start paying them off until you're employed and your income is above a certain level. Then you pay back a certain percentage of your income. But it's totally different here. When you finish school, you gotta pay. So that's anxiety. And then relationships, right, are so problematic. The hookup culture has just destroyed any sense of longevity in relationships. Everything's so chancy and dodgy, right? You just consider that's the cost of doing business, right? Yeah, that's the way it is. What can you do? You want to be with someone, you got to take the risk, you know? So that contributes to anxiety, the relationship instability. Then there's political anxiety. We already talked about economic anxiety. Will a robot take my job? You think you're studying right now in college something that's on the cutting edge? But what about 5 years from now, right? It's tough. So many young persons are living with their parents because they can't afford to get their own place. All these things add up to maximum anxiety, all in the name of our seeking enjoyment and pleasurable circumstances. So the life of a yogi, the life of a genuine meditator, is very different. It involves internal development. I call it applied spiritual technology. You take what wisdom Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita, which is incomparable, and you apply it in your life, and you see the results. You transform from a material body and mind enjoyer to a spiritual enjoyer. The secret of bhakti enjoyment is that you're concerned with the pleasure of the Supreme. You're concerned with the pleasure of Krishna. And because you are spiritually a part of Krishna, naturally you enjoy. But as soon as you try to be the all-in-all and enjoy in that way, this is where the problem is. As the Bhakti texts explain, what are the trees? The root and all the branches and leaves are nourished. There's an authorized way to water a tree. There's an authorized way for you to eat, right? How many of you eat by, try it tonight, taking the wonderful food that's offered to Krishna that we serve here, take it and try to stuff it into your ear. You won't do that because you know the mouth is the authorized place where the food goes for nourishing the whole body. So what is the root of existence where you can apply your efforts and automatically you're satisfied? This is what the Bhakti Yogi is concerned with. Our problem is we don't know the root of existence. We treat ourselves as if we're the all-in-all, as if we're central. And therefore we're so frustrated. And just for that privilege of being frustrated, we have to work so hard, right? I know many of you are asking yourself the question, what am I doing? But you can't stop because everyone else is doing like that and the pressure is on you. Stay on the treadmill, you can't get off. And you're afraid of being trampled, to lose your place in the race. It's bad enough. You don't come in first, second, or third. But worse than even losing your place in the race is to stumble and fall. And then what happens? Everyone tramples you and raises a head. It's horrible. So how can you slow down? How can you reorientate your life? You're living in such a high pressure society that's so advanced that you become part of the most anxiety-ridden generation in history. How is that progressive? How is that advanced? So we need to reconfigure our whole thrust for enjoyment. And that's what the Bhakti Yoga system is all about. How to change us from being imaginary, independent enjoyers to watering the tree at the root, recognizing we are part of Krishna, and we enjoy by assisting Krishna in Krishna's pleasure. We're not the complete whole, we're not the complete package. Just like the hand is not the complete package. It's not the all in all in of itself. The hand picks up the food, you'll do it tonight, and bring it to the mouth. And that way the whole body is nourished. So this is how the genuine yoga system works. Because you're the tiny part of Krishna, by harmonizing for Krishna's pleasure, automatically you're taken care of. Just like the leaf is nourished automatically when the water is put at the root of the tree. So this is how to be a natural enjoyer, spiritually. Recognize our non-material identity. Step one. Step two, recognize that there is a supreme spiritual identity. And step three is to understand the relationship between the two and nourish that relationship. That's what the yoga system is about at the top rung of the yoga ladder. So yes, we want you to be natural enjoyers, but it can't happen on the material plane. Some of you are starting to already figure that out. Others, you may need to go through some ordeals a bit more before you come to this conclusion. Some of you, it may take another lifetime. Still, if you want to be progressive, if you want to be truly advanced, this is the way to go. A way that's not based on religious belief, but a way that's based on knowledge and experience of that knowledge. This is the exciting career path that Krishna offers in Bhagavad Gita. The whole world is full of so many religious faiths and beliefs. But what you want is experience that's based on genuine knowledge. So indeed, you can be a natural enjoyer, but we have to know what our nature is and what is real enjoyment. Somehow or other we've become conditioned to such low-class stuff. And we think it's so great because society hasn't offered us anything better. Maybe some of you had that realization. I know when I was my late teens and then during my university years, I was thinking like that. Well, I guess this is what's out there. What can you do, you know? But I wondered, is there something better than this? Maybe not, I guess. Well, you know, this is all that there is, so I guess you just gotta, this is what you do because that's all there is. Yeah, some of you are thinking like that, yeah. Gotta do something, right? May not be the best thing, right? But it's something, right? Better something than nothing. We're so afraid of that. Nothing, no enjoyment. But when we get knowledge of the superior experience, knowledge of the spiritual experience, then we become motivated to raise our aspirations, lift our ambitions to the non-material level. So this is the kind of information available in the Bhakti Yoga system. The yoga system of natural enjoyment. Natural enjoyment means non-material enjoyment. We can practically experience that, and then our life becomes truly successful. All right, any questions? Yes.
How are you feeling?
How am I feeling?
Yes.
I'm happy to be here with you all. Haven't been in Los Angeles since maybe July of last year. But I made a special effort to be with you all because I heard, although this place is small, it's jumping with lively persons. So you're definitely worth a 12-hour flight from New Zealand.
You are appreciated.
Thank you. Yes.
Hello everyone. I would like to share something. I feel like Krishna just speaks to us in so many ways, and you just always have to have your ears open and take in that message. And also a question at the end.
Can you make the question at the beginning?
The question.
Thanks.
How do you know if you're going on the? Because in terms of anxiety, I'm glad I came here tonight because this is the perfect night to be here.
I agree.
In terms of anxiety and just like not like just wanting to know if you're going on the right path or if you're doing the right thing. How do you know if you keep on going in whatever it is that you're doing? And just not too long ago, someone recently stopped me. I was walking out of Denny's and he was like, excuse me, and I was like, yes. And then he was like, first thing, he was like, when I saw you, I saw the Holy Spirit walk out, and then he said he blessed me. I was so confused when he approached me. He said he blessed me with supernatural health, and he said to not be distracted by the demons, that God had given me a mission and that I needed to wake up because people were waiting on me, and to let go of bad habits, again, with like pleasure, those things that we constantly like want, those material things we constantly want pleasure out of, to let go of bad habits and work on my new self, that I had been chosen to do magnificent things and change the world, and throughout the process to stay humble. And that kind of just, I was confused at what he meant there, and like even from then until now, I've had anxiety, I've questioned, am I going on the right path? What am I supposed to do? What exactly does that mean? And
there are two things that you need, as I explained tonight. You need knowledge and the application of that knowledge. So therefore, I'm recommending to you the knowledge of Bhakti Yoga, as Krishna speaks it in Bhagavad Gita. And there you'll find information to engineer your lifestyle so that you can help yourself as well as genuinely help others. But first we need some knowledge. All right, it's good you have some intuition that you're meant for better things. I agree. But you need wisdom and the application of that wisdom. You see, the whole world is full of persons who want to love and care, but they don't know what they're doing. They have no knowledge. An example I often give. Let's say you have a failing heart, and he really feels compassion and care for you. He offers to operate on your heart. What would you say?
I guess, I mean, if I was in a position where if my heart is failing, I would want to come out of it.
Yes.
Accept what he would want to do for me.
You would accept?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, if he's capable enough.
If he's capable enough. Okay. So again, as I said, the whole world is full of persons who want to love and care. That's nice, but they don't take the time to get the qualification to truly love and care. So he might be so heartful and I want to help, I want to care. Let me operate on your heart.
I just assumed he was capable at that point.
But you would want to make sure that he has the skill, the knowledge, the wisdom, the technique. So similarly, if you want to truly uplift persons, take the time to become qualified, become the master of the self, become equipped with non-material knowledge, and then you can do the greatest good for the world. So this is just a small place here, but amazing persons come out of this place. Persons become equipped to give the highest gift to the world. That highest gift, again, is based on comprehensive spiritual knowledge and the techniques for applying that knowledge. So you can also take part in this great mission. Yeah?
Okay, so I have like more than one question, but I'll let somebody else go after me so that other people can also ask things. But you spoke about the mouth is the root to nourish the body with food. So what sense or what part is the root to nourish the spirit?
What part?
Or sense is the root to nourish the spirit?
You nourish the spirit by getting to the root of the spirit. That is Krishna, the self of the self. The complete whole. The ultimate goal of the yoga system. You have to find the root of all existence and put your efforts there. This is why mantra, meditation, the Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra is so important. It's sound vibration that directly brings you to the root of existence. And by applying your efforts to that root, naturally you're taken care of because you're part of the complete whole. Just like when the hand brings the food to the mouth, the whole body becomes nourished because the hand is part of the body. So you have to find the authorized way, the scientific way for nourishing the root of all existence. That's what Bhakti Yoga is about. And therefore Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita how to engineer your lifestyle so that everything you do becomes maximally effective. It's all about proper technique, proper methodology, which is the fruit of non-material wisdom. Yes?
Is it fair to say that yogis don't have anxiety or pressure?
I have anxiety. Right now and take off mine. It's warm, I'm getting anxiety. No. I'll explain when I say I have anxiety, meaning yogis have anxiety. It's not ordinary anxiety. It's not selfish anxiety. It's non-material anxiety because you're concerned with how all the parts of the complete whole will reconnect with the complete whole, will wake up out of their nightmare and reconnect. So that's a spiritual anxiety based on love. There's material anxiety, there's also spiritual anxiety. How can everyone, all living entities, get the best? Why just humans? Why not all living entities? You see the world scene these days. People are becoming more and more divided and divisive. My ethnicity, your ethnicity. My gender preference, your gender preference. Things are just becoming more and more chopped up and antagonistic. Real spiritual knowledge not only brings human beings together, but brings all living entities together. This is why Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that he is the seed-giving father of all living entities, not just the human beings. So it's not that the human beings try to behave nicely toward each other while slaughtering all the animals. No genuine yogi or meditator will accept that. Human beings are just one voice at the table of life. Important voice, but still just one voice. So, if we want to be genuine and authentic, we want to consider the well-being of all living entities. And you can have anxiety about that, but it's not material anxiety in terms of I, me, and mine. It's the legitimate anxiety of wanting to see all the parts of the Supreme reconnect with the Supreme. So yoga is not inactive at the top level. It is dynamic love in action. The reconnection of the parts with the complete whole. Yes?
I'm curious as to meditation's effect on our soul. I know it's good, I do it a lot, and it's a truly amazing thing and experience, but I'm just curious, is that another form of nourishment to the soul? Or?
We have to know what is the best way to meditate, because actually everyone's meditating on something. Right? Money, physicality, fame, respect. So what is the topmost meditation? This is why we need the knowledge from the yoga texts. And there we find out that the topmost meditation is on the ultimate source, which is unlimitedly attractive. That's where the name Krishna comes from, the unlimitedly attractive source of pleasure. For there to be unlimited pleasure, there has to be unlimited attractiveness. So, the best meditation is that which allows you connection with that ultimate source of unlimited pleasure, unlimitedly attractive source of unlimited pleasure. That's the ultimate goal of the Bhakti Yoga system. So Krishna explains at the end of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, of all the types of yogis and meditators, the topmost one is the one who's focused on me. So we need to find out more about that me. Who is that Krishna who can make such a statement? Then we have reached the top rung of the yoga ladder and the meditation system. Yes?
I have a question regarding teen parenting. It's complicated. It's not easy. See, my daughter, she had some conflict with my wife, and she wanted to go out and walk for 10 minutes in the night, like 7:30. It was dark street. So I'm scared of outside world because there's a lot of news, bad news, sex offenders, and scared of all those bad news. So I don't want her to go out, but she wants to go out, and finally I end up getting conflict with her. I lost myself because of attachment to her. It's a genuine attachment. It's a genuine fear.
How old is she?
She's 16.
16.
Yeah, but it's kind of scared. Like I see a couple of bad news here. Like they just grab the kid, keep it for 20 years as a slave. Those type of news. When I see those type of bad news, and I get scared, and I just explained to her, but she couldn't understand.
Can you offer her better knowledge and a better lifestyle?
Better knowledge.
Yes. What can you offer her that's better in terms of how to live life, how to understand life? And can you demonstrate that in your own life? You can just see the 16-year-old girl, she's thinking, Daddy's worried about me, but what about him? What does he know? What's he doing that's any different from anyone else out there? So you have to be able to demonstrate to your daughter superior knowledge and superior lifestyle. An example is worth millions of words.
But what should I do in that case if she wants to go out in the night? Like I should let her go or just say stay in the home or control?
I'm answering your question in a deeper way. Whether she goes out of the house for 15 minutes or stays at home without going out for 15 minutes, what about you? You're supposed to set an inspiring example in your home. Therefore, you should learn how to make your home a chakra, a center for spiritual development and nourishment. Then she can see something superior. Otherwise, what are you going to tell her? Don't go out at night for 15 minutes because, what, it'll affect your studies, it'll affect your job, give her some higher understanding and let her see that in you. At least your guru is not Hugh Hefner. Anyone else? Who has it? Yes?
So, what if you have a calling, but to like go on this path of spiritual connection, but there's a fear attached to it? How do you overcome that fear?
Through knowledge. You have to know what you're getting into. That's how I did it. Before I even came to one gathering like this, I read the Bhakti Yoga texts, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, 4 hours a day for 6 months straight. I'm from New York, so I'm a skeptical cynic, you know. We know it all, we've seen it all. So before I would allow myself to go to such a gathering, I really read the books cover to cover, over and over again. 4 hours a day for 6 months straight. So you don't have to be as extreme as I was, you know. You're from Los Angeles, right? You're a nicer person. But my point is that take advantage of and deal with your doubts, your fears. Just like if you go, let's say, you've never been to New Zealand before, right? But before you would go there, you would get knowledge, right? You talk to persons who have been there, you read Lonely Planet's guidebook or something. In other words, you get knowledge, you get information. And then when you get off the plane in New Zealand, you won't be so paranoid. You'll already have your backpacker place picked out, as they call it there. So we have so much knowledge available. And the techniques for experiencing that knowledge. I think what you're afraid of is like blind faith and beliefs. But we don't hand that kind of stuff out here. You gotta believe. Do you believe? Are there any believers out there? Raise your hand. We don't do that here. We offer the most comprehensive spiritual wisdom and the lifestyle techniques for experiencing that wisdom. Is that fair? Okay, I thought so too. How are we doing for time?
I think we're good on time since the dinner's a bit late.
Who hasn't asked a question before? Yes.
Hi, so I'm new to a group like this. I don't really talk to a lot of people, very to myself.
Welcome.
Thank you. I've been trying to find peace for a few years, and I tried through Christianity, all types of religion, and when I came across this practice, it really touched me. But what I've been learning so far, as in, I just want to practice something and do it the right way, but then as far as we're young and stuff, and sex is a big thing in most people's lives and stuff, and it says that to not engage in illicit sexual activity unless it's in the sake of procreation. So for someone like me, like, what do I do? In order to get to that higher level, do I need to make that sacrifice and not engage in those things until marriage, or, you know, only reserve that activity for the sake of bringing a child into this world?
Well, let's cut to the chase here. Why would you engage in that activity in the first place?
If I'm with someone, to have a deeper connection with them.
But if the person's not the body and not the mind, in other words, they're more than physiology and psychology, how is the physical going to lead to a truly deeper connection?
See, that's why I'm
Just like you're wearing, is it a black shirt?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So we take your black shirt and someone else's black shirt and we pile it together on the floor.
Can't tell the difference.
So how does that increase the love?
I'm just saying, like, so what do I do?
You need superior pleasure, otherwise you won't be able to give up the illusory pleasure.
So satisfy that in a
As Krishna explains in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, when you acquire superior pleasure, you'll automatically let go of the inferior pleasure. But if you don't know about superior pleasure, naturally you're going to hold on tight to the lower stuff.
And that's a material desire then, right?
Of course, it's based on and involves physiology and psychology, which you're not. You're spirit soul.
So in turn, like, obviously giving myself to Krishna, I would be fulfilled in that sense where I won't desire that.
Yes, if you follow the process properly.
Properly, yes.
Yes. You'll experience a transformation of your desires. Otherwise, it's not possible. You want pleasure. The reason why you're going for the physical stuff is because, well, yeah, this is what's out there, you know, and I got to do something, and, you know, I want to.
So, like, I would say, could you practice these things and apply them to your life as in to being a better person? But, like, do you still have the fear that, like, oh, I'm not gonna, like, how would I say it? Like, I'm going to hell, or I'm going to there, or something, like, you know what I mean?
No,
I'm sorry, I'm like I said, I'm like.
You practice bhakti yoga, and then what? What is the fear?
Damn, I can't.
That if you slip, you might be punished in some way?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I would feel like, what do I do? Just stop dead in my tracks and just.
If you slip up.
Yeah.
The amazing thing about the bhakti path, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, again chapter 2, is that whatever credits you accumulate, you never lose them. So even if, let's say, you start the bhakti process, you're really enthusiastic, and then some or other, due to inattentiveness, due to improperly applying the process after some time, you slip up. And then so you just disappear into illusion for the rest of your life. Still, you won't lose those credits you accumulated in bhakti, and you'll start off again in the future from that same point.
So is it possible to practice these philosophies and these ways of life without, like I said, having to be so hardcore and so, like, I have to, like.
What do you mean hardcore?
Like, be very, like, super, super devoted.
It depends on how much enjoyment you want.
No, I understand. That's why I said, like.
Yeah, it depends on how much of a pleasure lover you are.
True. That's why it's just very hard for me.
That was my motivation, you know. I wanted the best knowledge and the best pleasure. So it depends on how motivated you are to get the best pleasure.
Yeah.
It depends on whether you want to stick it out with the inferior stuff or not. The stuff that fades away, you know. You gotta work so hard for it. Laced with such anxiety. And after all, the body is temporary. And the mind is always changing, right? Pleasure based on the body and mind is so shaky. It's like a shooting star. So superficial. Therefore, Genuine yoga and meditation leads you to non-material pleasure. We need that kind of information and that kind of lifestyle. But naturally you're thinking, well, if I give this stuff up, what do I get in return? Educate yourself about what's the higher level. But I appreciate your concerns.
Yeah, because that was my thing, all these religions they're just so dogmatic, and it's like put fear, like you do the wrong thing or you're doomed, like, I'm just trying to be a better person, and I like what I'm learning.
I see what you mean.
And I'm just
I see more closely what you mean. Life is a school, and you may fail one course of study, but it doesn't mean that your education for your life is finished. All right? In fact, you can pick yourself up and with renewed determination go further than you've done in the past. But then again, you don't have to fail. This one chance is all you get, otherwise you burn. Eternally.
What?
No.
No, I'm just saying, it's just hard for me. Like I said, I don't speak out often. I don't do group things.
You're doing great. You're speaking out a lot. For a quiet guy, you're really going for it.
Yeah. So I'm really stepping out of myself because, like I said, this
Fantastic.
I'm learning a lot about this. So
Yes. So we have so much knowledge that you can study, and it'll answer those questions even more deeply.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. You've asked a question before?
I have.
Who hasn't asked? You haven't? Yes.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it so much. You can read books, but I think sort of direct experience is something completely different. My question was, I've always heard the statement we're all one, everybody is one. So if you could sort of explain, you kind of related to how the hand is connected to the mouth and the Buddha treat, so how are we all one?
We are all one in that we are part of the complete whole. In that sense, we are all one. All the parts belong to the same package. But at the same time, we're also different. Spiritually, you are an individual. Spiritually, I'm an individual. But we are part of the same supreme reality. In that sense, we are one. Another example, persons, materially speaking, it's a material example, doesn't apply in all cases. Persons who are in the same family, ideally, they're one in that they're all united in terms of having a harmonious family. At the same time, they're different. They're individuals, but they express their individuality harmoniously within the family unit. Isn't that the ideal for relationship? Whoever you're having a relationship with, you hope that you'll be able to retain your individuality while harmoniously blending. But still, while harmoniously blending, you have your individuality. That's the perfection of bhakti. The parts harmonize perfectly with the Supreme. The parts are one in that they're all part of the same package, the complete whole. But at the same time, they have individuality. So oneness doesn't mean I become you and you become me. It doesn't mean you become the Supreme or I become the Supreme. Okay? It's about the harmony of perfect love. That is the ultimate gift of Bhakti Yoga. The harmony of perfect love. This is a good question.
Maybe.
Oh, you have to have no doubts.
I think it's.
All right. This is the last question, so.
So while we are endeavoring for natural happiness, but somewhat still like attached to the material endeavors that we do for like artificial happiness, how?
We're not endeavoring for natural enjoyment unless we know better. People are not endeavoring for natural enjoyment. They're endeavoring for the mirage. But you're saying for those who are?
Those who are endeavoring for natural happiness. So,
Yeah.
like, what should we do, like, in that transition phase to detach from like the material, artificial endeavors?
Bhakti Yoga has two phases, the therapeutic stage and the relishing stage. The therapeutic stage means you stay away from what will injure your newly found health. And then the relishing stage means because your disease is cleared up, your disease of illusory enjoyment has cleared up, you're able to actually completely relish the spiritual dimension. Recognize that we are sick, contaminated by illusion, and then we clean ourselves up, we take therapy. And finally we become healthy and we can naturally enjoy. Wonderful questions, thank you. What comes next?
Kirtan.
Oh, we have a little kirtan. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.